Okay, so last week we were talking about the back half we were talking about the embodiment of calm and compassion. The idea of physically connecting, physically being calm, being a physical manifestation of calm, being a physical manifestation of compassion. So I just wanted to, talk about that a little bit more this evening as well. So we connect with these feelings of calm, we connect with compassion on the inside, but we need to do it on the outside as well, obviously. It begins on the inside, but on the outside, we also need to work towards being an embodiment of calm and an embodiment of compassion by our activities, by the way we interact in situations. So we bring calm into situations, and situations where we're not feeling calm or the energy in the room is not being calm, we embody the calm that we're connected with within ourselves, or we connect with that calm, and we try to bring that up in the room, either through our actions or our thoughts, for sure, and our speech, body, speech, and mind. The three go together. First is the mind, what we're thinking. So if we're not working with calm on the inside, we're not going to be able to be an embodiment of calm either on the inside or the outside. So we're working with it in the mind, and then we're working with it in terms of our activity, our physical presence. The presence of a calm person in a room or in a situation can really help alleviate situations that are tense. A kind word, a calm word to somebody in need of such can really have an effect on their experience, and certainly in that moment, and in the moments to come after that as well. And kind thoughts, kind, compassionate thoughts towards our fellow beings are also really, really important. We're not always aware of it, right? We're not always aware of how our presence, how our energy affects other people in the room, other people in our lives. So being an embodiment of calm is, part of it is connecting with that calm inside ourselves, and then allowing that to manifest in our actions and our speech. So it's an important way to practice. It's a way that we can bring our practice into our daily life. It's not just our internal experience, but how we choose to manifest, in the world. Try our best to be the one in the room that is expressing internally and externally calm, clarity, and compassion. And if we work with that, if we have those ideas, then we start to understand how the practice is just not on the cushion, right? And how for our own development, the importance of being able to embody those principles in the world, in our activity. And if we make a conscious effort to do that, we will find in our internal life, it will be very, very supportive. It will help our internal life. If we, with great intention, we work with the embodiment of calm, clarity, and compassion in the situations that we find ourselves in. I hear it's good for your karma too. So we continue to develop these ideas of calm, clarity, and compassion internally, so we can, in fact, manifest them externally, but we need to develop and grow them within ourselves first. And last week, I was talking about the root of the bamboo tree, how it takes 5 years to develop, how it takes 5 years before it sprouts above the ground. But in that time, it develops a very strong root system. And that's the internal work that we do with ourselves, right? Is by moving towards the wholesome, moving towards calm, moving towards clarity, moving towards compassion, we develop an inner strength that over time allows those qualities to grow and to manifest both within ourselves and outside ourselves. So when I use the word embodiment, what it also means is that you're feeling it, right? Let's just stay with calm for a moment. We're actually developing that sensation, that experience of calm. So when we feel our bodies, when we feel within ourselves, we feel that calm. And sometimes it may just be a little bit of calm, but we encourage it and we focus on it. We make choices, we make internal choices with our minds about where we're going to go. And we're going to move, we move towards the wholesome, we move to that which supports the calm. We do that when we're moving through our day, but also in the meditation practice itself. We use mindfulness. We use mindfulness to move the mind, to move our attention towards calm. We use the breath and we use mindfulness. And we see that when that calm is established, a natural companion of calm or byproduct of calm is clarity. And you could say that clarity is the lack of confusion. You're just being with what's taking place in the present moment. You're clearly seeing. There's a quality of mind that when the mind has settled, when the mind is calm, it's not getting so caught up in all of the things that it normally gets caught up in. And when we embody that calm, when we develop that ground, when we develop that root within ourselves of calm, then we will see what arises from that as clarity. There's a quality of mind that is not getting caught up in reaction. And that quality of mind that's not getting caught up in reaction, that's not getting caught up in grasping, that's not getting caught up in pushing away, but is simply being with the experience. From that, there is this clarity that presents itself. And the more that we start to experience that clarity, then the more confidence we get in the process. The more confident we become that we are creating a strong foundation, strong roots in our practice. Even though our mind still moves here and there, even though we get caught up in things, the time that we spend with that clarity, it creates confidence that there's another way to be. So we embody calm. We develop that feeling in the body, and we learn to be with it. So with the embodiment of calm, no matter what we're doing in the day, we learn to feel it, right? We learn to connect with it. And if we're in a situation with people, we learn to connect with it on the outside. We learn to bring it into our external situation. But by developing the roots, the rootedness, by developing the ground of that calm, it makes it a lot easier to do. And by being in that state, we're less likely to get caught up in negative situations and reactivity. And the less time we spend in those situations, internally or externally, the more clarity we have. So the clarity just is a natural byproduct of the embodiment of calm. And when we spend time with not the idea, but the feeling of calm, and that clarity comes, then we're in that place where we see the clarity in the body as well. We feel the clarity as well. So not only do we embody calm, but we embody that clarity as well. Internally and externally. So we become adept at connecting with that calm and clarity. For moments, for short moments or for longer moments. We become adept at it. And then we can begin to look at that experience, look at the experience of calm and clarity. We begin to investigate that. So we're no longer just watching the breath, we're watching the body, but we're being with this physical actuality of calm and clarity. And when we look at clarity, we begin to see it as an expression of presence, or we begin to see it as an expression of awareness. Because that's what it is. That clarity, that open, perceptive quietness of mind is presence. It's not with calm, to establish calm, we kind of hold things down a little bit, right? We put our attention on the breath, and sometimes we have to push other things away to develop that concentration, that focus. But with clarity, we're expanding our experience. We're rooted enough in the calm. We're rooted enough in the calm. Clarity doesn't need an object. It just is. And we begin to develop the capacity to be with that clarity. We begin to develop the capacity to be with that presence, that sense of presence. It's also called awareness. In Dzogchen, it's called Rigpa. It's that quality of mind that's bright, attentive, and not caught up. It's simply aware. And to develop that, we work on the embodiment of that as well. So we worked on the embodiment of the calm, internally and externally. And now from our development of calm, the natural clarity starts to become more apparent. And so we develop the embodiment of that clarity internally and externally, inside and outside. When we start this practice of Dharma, of meditation, of self-inquiry, the first big step is to turn our attention away from the outer experience into the inner experience. I talked about this a few classes ago. So we start to stop blaming external events for our mental states, for our experience. And we start to watch our minds and see how the reactivity of our minds colors our perception. Right? That's what we're doing. Instead of pointing that it's out there, we're looking at ourselves. We're looking at the quality of our mental states. We're looking at the quality of our minds. We're looking at our attachments. We're looking at our biases. We're looking at our anger. We're looking at all of those things. And we're seeing how they create our experience. We're seeing how we have a choice. You're in a good mood. Somebody steps on your toe on the bus, you don't really care. You're in a bad mood, somebody steps on your toe on the bus, look out. So we start to understand that. We start to understand that. We start to understand that. So that's the first big shift. And as we develop the mindfulness and the calm and the clarity, and we begin the ability to put our attention on the clarity from a place of calm, then we start to notice something else. We begin to notice that in this clarity, it's pointing to or giving an intimation of a deeper fundamental aspect of ourselves, which is presence or awareness. And we begin to be able to put our attention towards that. And when we begin to put our attention towards that, we come to a place where we realize that the experience of the mind, whatever mental states come up in the mind or whatever experiences that we have, that awareness, that presence is actually free of them. That it's actually not defined by those experiences. And it's not actually touched by those experiences. So first, when we begin the practice, we turn our attention inwards, and we realize that we have choices in terms of our reaction. And from that practice, we develop a greater calm, we develop a greater clarity, and then we're able to put our attention on that clarity, on that calm. And we see it points us towards awareness, presence. And then we begin to realize that that presence stands on its own. And that's where the freedom is. That's where the peace is. That's where the peace is. Because the situation comes and goes, the reaction comes and goes. And you start to notice that clarity hasn't changed. And then gradually we're able to embody that and act from that place. We gain confidence in the truth of that. In the beginning, it's just for most of us, it's just a glimpse, or it's glimpses of it. But the more glimpses we get, the more confidence that we gain in that simple truth. That there's an aspect of our being that is just awareness, that is not touched by activity. And we sit with this experience of calm in the body. We develop this experience of calm in the body. And from that, this natural occurring clarity arises. And we sit with that. And when turmoil and confusion come up, we see if we can, in fact, see that clarity as well. And we begin to see that that clarity is not separate from awareness. It's actually a physical experience. It's very, very subtle. It's in the energy body. When I say a physical experience, it's energetic. It's energetic. You don't lose a swelling in your knees or anything. It's an energetic experience. Just like the calm is an energetic experience. We identify it in the body with the breath work, the energetic experience of calm, and that becomes our focus. And then when we just sit back and watch, we see the clarity that's there. That quality of mind is not being pushed or pulled. That's simply being. And we put our attention on that. And we develop that. So what I just mapped out this evening, for most of us here who've done a fair bit of practice, that's the practice. You can't always go to the clarity or the awareness or the presence, but you should try. You should try to connect with it every day. That's the importance, and that's the value of meditation practice, is to be able to be very quiet and very internal and go into our experience very, very deeply and look and look. And when you look for it, in an open, easeful way, you begin to sense it. And you work with that. You keep coming back to the practice. You keep coming back to the practice. Because that's where the practice ends up, is being with that awareness, is being with that clarity. Everything else is just tools to get there. Okay, why don't we sit with that? So I hope you understand that, what I just expressed here, is the practice, and we begin, as we do in the meditation, we begin with the breath, right? When connecting with the calm, connecting with the breath, connecting with the feeling in the body, opening up to the body, opening up to the energetic experience of the breath and the calm. And then through skillful means, through mindfulness, we get to that place where we're not grabbing onto things as much. And then we start to see the clarity. And then we go back to the breath. And once we have a sense of that clarity, we put our attention on that. And then when we lose it, when we lose the focus on that, we just go back to the breath. And embodiment of calm. So we're using the breath practice, the anapanasati, or whatever breath practice you do, but let's say anapanasati, we're using it as a base. But when the mind is quiet enough, mindful enough, alert enough, then we put our attention on the awareness. On the clarity. What's the awareness? What's the clarity? It's the knowing factor. It's that which knows. So when there's a lack of confusion, the knowing factor is clear because we're not caught up in thought. We may have thought. We probably will have thought, but we're not caught up in it. We're not caught up in confusion. So we can put our attention on the awareness factor, on the clarity.